Testing. Let me double check. Let me make sure that everything is live. Oh, I think it is live. So I was having problems where it was looking like the mic wasn't working. Let me make sure. Get up here. Um, let's see. Damn. Let me see. What the heck? No, 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 no. All right, let me try something else. Come here. All right, let me see. Testing, one, two, three, testing. All right, let me see. Testing, one, two, three, testing. All right, we're good. I'm gonna play some clips because I was talking to Big J the other day when he was talking about this World War thing and banks crashing and all these different ill effects, right? And people don't want change. They're ready for, or they have a certain set type of lifestyle in mind, and they're not willing to change from that or deviate from that. But um I came across a channel that has a lot of like very pertinent information when it comes to physiology in the body and fear mongering and why news networks fear monger and the ill effects it has on people and the body chemistry, how the body's made physiologically. The body is made to look like an inverted tree with the roots to the spirit, or the main roots in the brain to the spirit of God, basically, and the body functions. And there's a real purpose in why you have people in power who want to fearmonger and make sure that people, put that energy in their body and put that illness in their body with fear about, you know, bad things happening, war, banks crashing, financial instability, and all these different things, right? I'm going to get back to that, but I want to play something when it comes to ancient science and ancient civilizations when we think that we are the most advanced and we really are not. So let me play a little bit about that. Let me see if I can get it pulled up. Let me replay, and then I want to go and play a few more things, and I want to comment on it. So I think a lot of people that are in like Judaic biblical stuff understand the tree of Babylon and the bowels going across the whole earth and all these different concepts. So if you equate the human body to being a tree, right? And there's different types of trees all over the globe, right? it lets you know if the human body is a tree, and there's a spiritual connection when the Bible talks about the different trees, cutting these trees down, leaving the rootstock and letting the rootstock grow, or banding the tree and then letting the tree grow again. Like there's symbology. There's symbology and an equation to the human body. Hey Sheila, how you doing? So all of this biblical stuff, I don't really like referring back to biblical stuff because I think it gets in the way. People get caught up in a lot of the scriptures, instead of like using it for what it is. It's a tool to guide you and your life to have a better life, to create environments and communities for people to have a better life. Unfortunately, people don't take it for what it is. They manipulate it. They use it for power structures, control mechanisms. So a lot of religions do that. They take biblical references in order to control people and control the masses. Let me play some stuff first, and then I want to get back to the part about the tree and how certain things affect your physiological body. Okay. Now, this particular video
we're going to deals with Egypt at the study of earth grids and the enchantment of the landscape. With this idea that the earth has a geometrical nature, and that the ancients understood this and placed sites all around the planet connected up to a massive geomantic system. One of my big inspirations was John Michel, and he really believed, as paraphrased here, that the earth was like a huge scientific instrument, and sites were placed across the landscape, connecting up energetically, astronomically, and in a scientific system to bring enchantment to the people, to the land, fertility to the animals, to the farms, the plant life, and so on. And he really saw it as a kind of spiritual science of the ancients. Then we get on to the more esoteric terms. Ley lines or lays really is an alignment of 4 or more ancient sites. This could be from any era, from the prehistoric right up to the Christian time. And it can be over any distance, but it has to be in a straight line. This was first coined by Alfred Watkins in the 1920s. And a circle is really an extension of a ley line. It goes all the way around the planet, almost like cutting the earth in two. We'll see examples of these now. Ancient sites across the planet were lined up all around the planet. Archaeoastronomy is the alignment and orientation.
So basically, he's already pointing out one major ley line, what they call the equator. That's a ley line. But there's so many different ley lines, and major ancient archaeological finds have been built on ley lines. The ones in Mexico, some in Ireland and Europe, Egypt, all over the globe, right? And they're now finding that even in the ice caps in the North and South poles, there are also these pyramids, right? And these pyramids have more than a function. People thought, historically that they were some tomb. They're not a tomb. They're a power grid. They're like a power source. They're like a, what's the word I'm looking for? How we have power companies and what have you. These different ancient buildings, or the pyramids and things like that, have different functions. So he's going to go on to tell you the different functions that each one of these have, and their particular origin, and where they're placed on the ley lines or the grid lines of the earth, because those grid lines give some kind of power, like almost like a power cord. You know how like you plug in a power cord for something and it powers your device or whatever the case may be. Well, that's the same thing that these pyramids do when it comes to human bodies, when it comes to healing, when it comes to an energy source. Like these different structures do the exact same things, but they get their power literally from these ley lines in the earth. So let me continue.
Of sights of the sun, moon, and stars at certain times of the year or certain cycles. Earth energy lines, these are yin and yang energies that emanate from the earth. They often move in random, sinuous, serpentine ways across the surface of the planet. Similar to these are telluric currents. And these are alternating electric and magnetic currents that are from the Earth's magnetic field. They strengthen at sunrise and weaken at dusk. They often form into spirals. These are often recorded and noted at downs at ancient sites. And Earth grids is really all of these in one system, looking at the Earth as a representation of these different geometries, different systems, one whole grid.
Oh, so hold on 1 second. Hold on.
In medieval times in Europe, they did types of vibrational.
So I don't know if anybody knows that there's some major. Okay. There's some major activity coming on where certain spirits that are ancient spirits or ghosts or whatever, they're having phenomenons happening all over the world right now, right? And it's not by mistake that we're in a place in the cosmos right now that is really it's really powering this earth. It's moving the earth. And the people that are in power understand where we're located while we're spinning through the universe, right? And they're manipulating and they're using it to control. However, I don't think they fully understand what they're asking for with a lot of this ancient knowledge. I don't think they fully understand what power harnessing they're doing, and I don't think they have they think they have things under wraps, right? They think they have things under control, but I personally don't think they have things under control, right? Hold on 1 second. I don't think they're prepared for what they're asking or what they're pushing and what they're manifesting. Let me continue. I mean, I went on a tangent with that, but I want to get back to where we each have an obligation to control our own bodies. We have an obligation to make sure that we are the right representation of divine that we possibly can be, and that we don't fall out of line with divine order, which is what the whole society right now is built on: chaos and controlling and throwing people out of divine order. I'll continue.
Existing to find lines of energy in the earth. And these earth grid energies were classically used for demarcating specific vibrational qualities in a location. And also they would build sacred structures directly on the earth lines. The earth lines could be used either for placing the walls of the building on or the central axis of the building. And so this woodblock print shows in medieval times the dowsers of that time, vibrationally testing for where the lines of energy are running in the earth to plan out the city. In Dr. Kareem's biogeometry work, a tremendous amount of detail has been developed, talking about the ways that we can detect these earth energy lines and the methods used in ancient times that have now been updated into modern methods to be able to build and work with these earth energies in the classical method of either developing a single building or actually shaping the energetics of entire neighborhoods, communities, or cities. This particular slide here looks at the way that in placing any type of sacred site, which in modern times would be a church in Europe, they would find a place that multiple energy lines come together that are running a specific type of energy. Again, this is an energy often referred to as the energy of sacred power spots. And one of Dr. Kareem's accomplishments, as we'll mention in just a moment, has been to actually identify the specific vibrational quality of power spots. In this particular German analysis of this particular church, you can see that there are multiple lines of energy that are crossing at a particular location. The place of the multiple crossings of lines of energy is where they will place the altar within the church. And another major large energy line will become the central.
So what he's talking about right now is that there's different churches all over the globe, right? It's mainly European churches, right? That they have placed these churches on certain power grid ley lines, right? Sacred ley lines. And they built the structures on these ley lines. And if you go and you really watch some videos about people that go into these different churches, and it doesn't even have to be a church, it also can be prisons. It can be prisons, it can be different types of structures, but they're finding that there's a lot of different dimensional activity going on in those churches that is not this 3D dimension. Okay, so they're having ghost encounters, they're having demonic encounters with different animals, or not even just animals, but beings that transform into like animalistic type of behaviors, right? So these different churches, these different prisons, and these different buildings are built on these ley lines, and they're manifesting different beings from different dimensions. They don't have a physical body because you actually have to incarnate into a physical body to experience this 3D type of life, right? You have to have a physical form that your spirit incarnates into for this 6th dimension or 6 elemental earth dimension. So these beings that are coming in don't have actual physical bodies. So let's continue.
An axis for the church.
And when we look at Giza, we find that even Graham Hancock noted this in his 1998 book, Heaven's Mirror. He developed a theory of longitudinal distribution of sacred size based upon precessional numbers. These are numbers that are encoded into the precession of the equinox, 25,980 year cycle. And these are all harmonic numbers such as 72, 144, 108, etc. But he also found not only did that the sites were related longitudinally from Giza, they were harmonic distances, harmonic degrees apart. We also accidentally found that they were based upon pentagonal geometry. The numbers of precession are the internal angles of pentagons, suggesting that the precession of the equinoxes is directly related to sacred geometry, i.e. pentagons, possibly dodecahedron.
I don't want to say anything that discourages what he's saying, but what you see, what you're looking for is what you're going to find, right? So his mind is in tune with pentagonal shapes, right? But everybody's sacred geometry isn't triggered or isn't controlled by one certain type of geometry. So his particular, what he's speaking on is a pentagonal type of geometry. There's so many different geometrical shapes in the universe creation, right? But he's speaking on this. So don't get hung up on what he's saying when it comes to the pentagonal shape, right? Because there's so many shapes in the universe that if you're triggered and your eye is triggered to see it, you're going to see it.
Geometries, which we'll see later. So was this a lost universal pattern yet to be discovered? And just to look at it from another level, the importance of the Great Pyramid itself. It appears to have been designed and built to represent the Earth, or certainly the Northern Hemisphere. The height and perimeter of the Great Pyramid multiplied by 43,200, which is one of these precessional numbers, yields figures very close to the modern polar radius and equatorial circumference. The base length of the pyramid is also precisely 1/8 of a minute of degree of the Earth's polar circumference. And so we're finding Earth measurements very simply, very simple terms within the Great Pyramid's dimensions. And this is just the tip of the iceberg. If you look more deeply into the Great Pyramid, you kind of see that it is really a repository of ancient knowledge, a repository of ancient mathematics, geometry, astronomy, very high wisdom. And I believe it was partly
Sorry to keep cutting it off, but when people talk about divine creation, okay, Sheila, when people talk about divine creation, the divine creator of the universe, or the divine creators of the universe, everything is mathematical. Everything is has a pretty much a perfection to the creation that scientists today try to mimic. They try to mimic what the divine creator has created. And then in one of the videos, it's going to talk about Antichrist and sacred, your sacred chakrals and your form and how you're created as a human body, because scripture says as above so below. So we are a representation in a physical form to the divine creation in the universe. We are all interconnected divinely. Let me continue.
Maintained, partly built to be a permanent structure, to encode all these different high levels of geometry, mathematics, and technologies, and energies, and so forth. It was almost deliberately created to withstand many thousands of years of vandalism, destruction, and ignorance, to maintain this high level of intelligence, sophistication, and consciousness on the planet. I think the same can be said for many other sites around the world. That's why they were built stones, so they would last. It would be almost impossible to destroy. The Great Pyramid itself in Egypt, brilliant research by various people, mainly Christopher Dunn, found that they themselves, the pyramids, were...
Just watching something, I know this is kind of going off track, but it also is in line too. So we see the pyramids. The pyramids have never been covered up. I don't know if that's by design. I don't know if that's because people, took care to make sure that dirt and debris didn't, cover the pyramids. But there are ancient civilizations that are completely under soil or even underwater. So they don't know exactly what these different civilizations functions were, and their power structures or their building structures on these different ley lines that they're finding all over the globe. They haven't been able to, like Easter Island, at one time they believed that these statues just were heads, but come to find out when they dug down, their whole bodies, they're statues of whole bodies in Easter Island. So in the same token, there's ancient civilizations that are completely underground, completely covered in soil, that until archaeologists dig them up and really, delve into what they are and what they were about and what their purpose was, nobody even knew they existed until they got dug up. Let me continue.
Crazy energy accumulators and distributors, mechanical, thermal, electromagnetic, nuclear, and even chemical. There was so much going on within these. There's a whole system that Chris Dunn writes about in the Giza power plant, where they were able to set them up, get the pyramids going, seal them up, and there would be like this constant energy flow, energy machine that could have fed the whole planet. It could have been manipulated to spread from one ancient site to another, spread constantly around the planet, between obelisks, standing stones, mounds, and other such things, even on different continents. Right underneath the pyramid is the great subterranean chamber. I've been here a couple of times. I went here when I was extremely sick. When I was here, actually inside the pyramid on December the 21st, 2012, and I was so sick, I got really horrendous food poisoning. When I climbed down to the subterranean chamber, I became completely healed, 100%. I was not sick. 30 minutes while I was down there, I was completely healthy. The whole sickness had been neutralized. I was no longer nauseous. I felt energy. What's going on? Utterly bizarre. I came back out of the chamber. And I was sick again. I got up to the surface. I felt sick again. So it's almost like some kind of neutralizing energy, like pyramid power, kind of sending this energy down into this sub.
So this is my question. So I know that different chambers in the pyramids are made with different stones or had different metals and stones in them at one time. So is it possible that there's some type of stone that's in the chamber that he was in that healed him, was able to keep him from or neutralize his illness because he had food poisoning, that he was able to neutralize his illness? I mean, I can get on a whole tangent about that, on the mental state and all those other things, but was there an actual like physical component? Was there some scientific reason why that when he was down in that chamber, what was the chamber made of that made his body be neutralized from illness?
Draining chamber. I was completely well for the time I was there. And we know that pyramids do have these particular effects. There's been tests done recently in Russia and Ukraine. And they've been building these fiberglass pyramids, which are based upon the golden section, much like the Great Pyramid. These are much more taller and elongated. And these are some of the results they were getting. They would find that water wouldn't freeze, increased strength of concrete, ionized plasma rising up above the pyramid. Seeds, again, getting a 20 to 100% growth increase. Increased resistance to mice with salmonella tumor, similar to me. I had serious food poisoning. I got completely well when I was under the Great Pyramid, and increases in yield and so forth. So we're finding that even simple pyramid construction can have these incredible effects. I think that principle was applied everywhere on the planet. This is a quote from Paul Devereaux, who basically says the same thing, that ancient sites of power were sometimes found and sometimes deliberately constructed to mimic or enhance what could be found in nature. In either case, the forces of the natural world were used. They were used for a variety of purposes, such as the promotion of fertility and for healing. The overriding purpose was the need to have gateway.
Let me say this too. So the Star of David is two pyramids that are basically interlocked, which is like one point is pointing to another stargate or somewhere else in the cosmos, right? Another planet. And the way that pyramid is placed on that planet, on its grid lines, intersects with the Star of David. And that's what the Star of David is. It's two pyramids interlocked,
through which contact with spirit could be achieved. In the ancient world, there were certain people who knew how to work with the physical world in order to create access to the spiritual. So there's like a combination of different things at play here. Same principles that would enhance your seeds and grains. This has been tested scientifically, would enhance your brain chemistry, affect the different glands in your brain, give you out-of-body and visionary experiences.
Okay, let me play, so let me not read these yet. Let me put this up here. Let me see. I'm playing this one.
Are you drowning in payday loan debt? Have you taken up multiple payday loans and are unable to?
The universe is in your brain. It's called the hypothalamus, and it produces chemicals on demand, consistent with the way you think, feel, and perceive. So if you feel brave, you'll produce a chemical called interleukin-2, which is the most efficient chemical for fighting cancer worldwide. In fact, I checked today, a course of artificial interleukin-2 can cost between $6,000 to $8,000 per course. Your body produces it in the right quantities to go to the right place at the right time. When you feel calm, you produce your own Valium. You don't need Valium from the drug manufacturing company, which has side effects. When you're happy, you produce endorphins and ecophyllins. The bottom line here is your body has the ability to heal itself, provided you are thinking the right way. Thinking the wrong way just produces the alternative result. Always focus on the positive. Be brave. Be happy. Be healthy.
Whatever picture you hold in your mind, the brain translates that into complementary chemistry. If I have a picture of love, my brain releases wonderful things into the blood, like dopamine for pleasure, oxytocin to bond with others, a growth hormone. And growth hormone does exactly what it says. So when you're in love, you're releasing this growth hormone, which enhances your vitality. And that's why when people fall in love, they get so healthy. They get, they say, oh, look how they glow. They're so in love. And I go, this is the chemistry of the blood engaging the behavior of the cells. But what if I'm holding a picture of something that scares me? I said, well, you're not going to release love chemistry. You start to release stress hormones and factors that affect the immune system and all that. And I said, well, that's a different chemistry. I go, yeah, just like in the culture dish, a different chemistry leads to a different genetic activity.
It's your environment.
So is it a wonder why mainstream media puts nothing but negativity on their channels? Like, you don't really hear anything positive, but mainstream media has a propaganda that keeps pushing negative, war, disaster, and all these different things, right? There's a reason why they're doing it. There is a reason. I mean, I could get into demonic possession. I could get into a lot of like people talking about the Antichrist and these beings, but there are actual beings that are anti the well-being of humanity as a whole. There are beings that are in power that are anti everything that is what is positive or should be pushed positive for humanity. They're 100% against all that, and it's about control.
Not your genes that determine the fate of your cells. Professor Bruce Lipton did an experiment. He took 3 genetically identical cells and placed them in 3 different culture mediums: muscle, bone, and fat. The cells responded by becoming muscle, bone, and fat in relation to the culture mediums they were placed in. So it's the environment, not the genes, that determine the fate of your cells.
You hear that? They put 3 cells in 3 different mediums: muscle, blood, and fat. And all 3 cells replicated and did what they were supposed to do in those different mediums, even though it was the same cell, based on the environment, based on what you're taking in, the energy you're taking in. If you're taking in a fear energy, you're going to produce illness in your body. Let me continue.
Composition of 50 trillion cells. The culture medium that your cells live in is your blood, and your mind is the chemist that determines the composition of that culture medium. When you have thoughts and feelings like compassion, love, gratitude, you produce nutrients that nurture your cells. When you have thoughts and feelings of worry, anxiety, stress, etc., you produce toxins that damage your cells, therefore you. Learn to love yourself, have compassion for others, and be grateful for everything you have.
Now, fear is going to be a player in your life, but you get to decide how much. You can spend your whole life imagining ghosts, worrying about the pathway to the future.
So this is Jim Carrey speaking, and I knew that he was on a spiritual journey like several years ago, but I didn't know to what extent. But here, listen.
But all there will ever be is what's happening here, and the decisions we make in this moment, which are based in either love or fear. So many of us choose our path out of fear disguised as practicality. What we really want seems impossibly out of reach and ridiculous to expect, so we never dare to ask the universe for it. I'm sane. I'm the truth. that you can ask the universe for it. You are ready and able to do beautiful things in this world. And if you walk through those doors today, you will only ever have two choices, love or fear. Choose love, and don't ever let fear turn you against your playful heart.
One often meets his destiny on the road he takes to avoid it. We have to do something. We can't just let him march on the valley and take his revenge. He'll... Your mind is like this water, my friend. When it is agitated, it becomes difficult to see. But if you allow it to settle, the answer becomes clear.
You don't see with your eyes, you see with your brain. On the front of your eyes are roughly 7 million light receptors that let the light in. That information then goes to the first part of the visual cortex, where it interacts with 100 million cells. That's basically 100 cells for every one cell at the front of your eye. Those cells distribute information around the visual cortex to deal with things like movement, color, etc. It's then reassembled and sent to a part of your brain called the thalamus. The thalamus is known as the junction box of the brain. The thalamus distributes that information to different parts of the brain, and when it comes back to the thalamus and is reassembled, there's 80% more information added to it than was initially there. That means that the reality you're experiencing, moment by moment, day by day, 80% of it is coming from within your own mind. That's a powerful thing to understand. You create the reality you experience.
That's pretty.
My old friend, you will never fulfill his destiny, nor yours, until you let go of the illusion of control. Illusion? Yes. Look at this tree, Sifu. I cannot make it blossom when it suits me, nor make it bear fruit before it's time. But there are things we can control. I can control when the fruit will fall. And I can control where to plant the seed. That is no illusion, master. Yes. But no matter what you do, that seed will grow to be a peach tree. You may wish for an apple or an orange, but you will get a peach. But a peach cannot defeat Tai Lung. Maybe it can, if you are willing to guide it, to nurture it, to believe in it. But how? How? I need your help, master. No. You just need to believe. Promise me, Shifu. Promise me you will believe. I will try. No. Try not. Do. Or do not. There is no try.
That sounded like Yoda.
If you want to become successful in life, young man, he said, number one, you got to change your mindset. He said, you don't get in life what you want, you get in life what you want. Number two, practice OQP, only quality people. You earn within $2,000 to $3,000 of your closest friends. And the third thing he said, develop your communication skills, because once you open your mouth, you tell the world who you are.
Interesting.
The way of understanding. In order to understand something, we can't stand outside and simply observe it. We have to enter deeply into it and become one with it in order to truly understand it. Now, that's a quote from a book called The Other Shore, written by the great Zen Buddhist master Thich Nhat Hanh, which explains the Heart Sutra, one of the ancient Buddhist scriptures. But it also reflects the findings of quantum mechanics and quantum physics today, which is something called the observer effect. And that means that the way we view things has an effect on how those particles behave in forming our reality. When you become one with something, and you do, you become one with your worries, your anxieties, your illnesses. You help to create that reality. Become one with your healing. Become one with what you want in life. Become one with the abundance that exists.
When you feel so amazing and feel so great about yourself that you no longer want anything, the first thing you want to do is give. I mean, When we see that brain scan moving into coherence and those two hemispheres come together, and all of a sudden we see that heart start going boom, boom, very orderly. Instead of more energy going in the brain goes into super coherence. You can walk around and look at that person who's getting the brain scan, and there are tears of joy rolling down her face. She's feeling so whole that it's impossible to want. How can you want whole? Now you feel like you already have it. So you have it already. That's the moment the magic happens. So she's
I don't know if you caught that. How can you want if you're whole? People want material possessions when they're not whole, like extreme material possessions. Everybody has to have some material possessions to function properly in the earth, on the earth, in this world, in this 3D world. But also being in relationships, looking outward in different, because I know people that jump from relationship to relationship to relationship to relationship. And it's not because they have everything locked down and everything's good in their life and they're complete and they're whole. They're searching. They keep searching for somebody to complete them. Let me continue.
No longer creating from lack and duality and separation. She's feeling like it already happened. And that's a very profound signal in the field. That's dropping a big stone in the water and it's producing some big wave.
Welcome, dear one. I've been eagerly awaiting your arrival.
As I can tell, it's just about letting the universe know what you want and working toward it while letting go of how it comes to pass. Your job is not to figure out how it's going to happen for you, but to open the door in your head. And when the door opens in real life, just walk through it. And don't worry if you miss your cue, because there's always doors opening. They keep opening. And when I say life doesn't happen to you, it happens for you, I really don't know if that's true. I'm just making a conscious choice to perceive challenges as something beneficial so that I can deal with them in the most productive way. You'll come up with your own style. That's part of the fun. Oh, and why not take a chance on faith as well? Not religion, but faith. Not hope, but faith. I don't believe in hope. Hope is a beggar. Hope walks through the fire and faith leaps over it.
There are many ways to get the things that we want for ourselves in our lives. But basically, it all begins with how we choose to think. As you think, so shall you be. 7 little words that I think are perhaps the most important things that we can learn and master in our lives. This old proverb notion that I become what I think about all day long. And once you know that what you think about is what expands, you start getting real careful about what you think about. You don't allow your thoughts to be on anything that you don't want, or that you wouldn't want to have manifest or show up for you in your life.
I now know that if you take a person and you say, okay, close your eyes, sit in the silence of any external stimulation, sit your body down like an animal. Here comes the challenge, right? People think when they do this that they're doing something wrong because there's such discomfort that comes with it. But they're in the unknown. They're actually doing it right. People say, I think I'm meditating wrong. I always say, oh, no, you're doing it right. Because when you notice that your body wants to get up and check your cell phone or have a cup of coffee, and you become aware that it's on autopilot, wants to do that, and you say, come on over here, and you return it back to the present moment, you're executing a will now that's greater than the program. We've researched this. Sooner or later, the body acquiesces. Sooner or later, the body is trained to a new mind. And when that happens, there's a liberation of energy. And now there's energy to heal. Now there's energy to create a new life. Now there's energy for the mystical moment. This is the most incredible method I've ever seen. I learned some years ago. Just rewrite your goals. Because every time you write your goals down, you're programming them into your subconscious mind. When you program them into your subconscious mind, you set up a field of vibration within your brain. And this law of attraction
based on this field of vibration, attracts into your life people and circumstances that harmonize with your dominant thoughts.
If somebody's standing behind you, let's say in a mall, and they're staring at you, you feel them staring at you, don't you? Yeah. One of you. Feeling is conscious awareness of vibration. And when a person's staring, they're concentrating, they're sending such a powerful charge of energy at your brain that you start to feel it. You turn around, sure as hell, there's somebody there staring at you. You can only attract according to the frequency that you're operating on. Attraction is a secondary law. The primary law is the law of vibration. That's a primary law of the universe. Everything in this room is moving. Nothing rests. This table's moving. It just appears to be still. The law of vibration decrees, everything moves, nothing rests. Well, when you think, you put you under a frequency. You can only attract what's on.
Not to be corny, but he's not wrong, because we are on a globe that is floating through the universe and constantly in movement. It's on axis and it's turning, and it's floating and it's floating and it's floating through the universe. So yes, everything is moving.
The frequency. You think about a person a lot, just concentrate on that person will phone you. Or you'll bump into them on the street. You're thinking about it, yeah. The law of attraction takes over. You can attract to you what you're in harmony with. But when you set goals, you're going to see yourself already there. It's called a mindset. A lot of people talk about mindset, they don't understand what it is. They set their mind on the frequency that they have to be in to attract what they have to attract.
What you focus on changes your body. It's been scientifically proved that just 1 hour of focused concentration doubles the number of neurons in the neurological network associated with what you're focusing on. But what happens next? Well, the information from that network goes to a part of your brain called the limbic system, which produces emotions consistent with what you're focusing on. And then those emotions then produce chemicals, which literally change your body. Now, the limbic system is also the seat of the autonomic nervous system, and it regulates heart rate, body temperature, your immune system.
So I don't know if anybody's very familiar with the autonomic system in the body. It's what makes you breathe without consciously being aware. You can do everything else, but it's what makes you unconsciously breathe. It's when you sleep. So that is the different functions. Your heart is pumping, it's beating, things are going on without you being consciously aware. So even when sometimes people pass away and certain functions of their body stop, a lot of times they say that the brain is still moving, the brain is still active, even though the body has stopped functioning. And that is the automatic, body functions.
People have healed themselves by changing their focus of awareness, by only focusing on the positive. Ordinary people do this every day. You can do this too. When you align your intention with your behavior, amazing things can happen.
Give me a child until it's 7 and I will show you the man. And it's just based on how you grew up, what you see. Look, this is not new. I mean, there's a famous book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And basically said you come from a poor family and you could struggle your whole life and try to get rich, but you're not going to make it. And if you come from a rich family, you could be stupid your whole life and make it. Just when you're just falling off into sleep, consciousness is disconnecting. The next period of your brain operation while your consciousness is disconnected is theta, which is the same brain function as in the first 7 years. So if you put a pair of earphones on at night with a program of what you would like to be true in your life, as soon as your conscious mind disconnects, that program is playing. It's not playing into your conscious mind. That's shut off. It's now going straight into the subconscious mind. So it's called auto-hypnosis.
Conversations under anesthetic.
That's pretty powerful to know that when you sleep, your brain goes into auto-hypnosis. So I think what people need to do, like he was saying, is that when you're in your conscious state of mind and you meditate and you're pushing positivity, I think that would flow into your subconscious. to be doing the reprogramming or the auto reprogramming of your brain if you start to change the way you think, like he's talking about. So in your consciousness, you're changing the way you think so that your subconscious can reprogram your brain.
Dave Ellman is considered to be one of the greats in the hypnotherapy world. And what Dave Ellman discovered was that when patients were under anesthetic and undergoing surgery, the comments and conversations made by the surgeons, which they obviously couldn't hear when they were under anesthetic, were being embedded in their subconscious mind. Now, afterwards, some of these patients would suffer problems and complications and pain, etc. And when Dave Ellman put them under hypnosis, deep hypnosis, and relived the surgery, those patients were then able to recall the comments made by the surgeons during the surgery. If those comments were positive, they had a positive post-operational experience. If they were negative, they had not so good post-operational experience. You are your surgeon to your unconscious mind. Be mindful of what you say to yourself. Love yourself. Be kind to yourself.
That peace that we're after lies somewhere beyond personality, beyond the perception of others, beyond invention and disguise, even beyond effort itself. You can join the game, fight the wars, play with form all you want, but to find real peace, you have to let the armor go. I can tell you from experience, the effect you have on others is the most valuable currency there is. How will you serve the world? What do they need that your talent can provide? That's all you have to figure out. Your need for acceptance can make you invisible in this world. Don't let anything stand in the way of the light that shines through this form. Risk being seen in all of your glory.
Okay.
I just got
S-U-N, rising suns, and sons, S-O-N-S. Catching on, he asks, to the last sons of the sign ascending. So, okay, there's two meanings. There is the latter, which, like I said before, is the human spine, in which the prodigal son of the sacred oil of Christos travels up and down to offer healing and enlightenment to the human form. And then there's also the heel catcher, the word, the name Jacob. And in very ancient zodiacs, you'll see a man drawn in the center of them, where his back is arched and his heels circle around and touch the back of his head, create a circle. And that's what the word Jacob means. That's the name. It's the man in the sky, which refers to the zodiac, which is Theogland.
Okay.
And is described in what follows. There is no name under heaven whereby we may be saved except Jesus Christ did, christened, and then crucified. The correct rendering of the text in Greek. Every 29 and a half days, the moon is in the sign of the zodiac that the sun was in at the birth of the native. There is a seed, a psychophysical germ born in the or out of the solar plexus, also known as the manger. This seed is taken up by the nerves and branches of the gastric nerve and becomes the fruit of the tree of life, or the tree of good and evil. Good, if saved, can cast upon the waters, circulation, to reach the pineal gland. And it's known as evil, if eaten or consumed in sexual expression from the physical plane, or by alcoholic drinks or gluttony that causes fermentation or acid and even alcohol in the intestinal tract. Thus, in quotes, no drunkard can inherit the kingdom of heaven, or acids and alcohol cut, or chemically split the oil that unites with the mineral salts in the body and thus produces the monthly seed. So that's what he's saying, is that this oil is, it's spiritual because it's electrically charged. And it also is special because it has the ability to make new life, and your body created it. But it's also very fragile based on the way you treat your body. So the idea of it is to take care of it and to know that it's traveling up and down your spine and transmutate your sex energy accordingly. Now, he's not talking about celibacy. He's talking about knowing the body and using that energy at the right time.
And that's the problem with people nowadays, is that they don't say sex is very sacred. There's a lot of chemical building in the body from sex. There's a lot of can be healing for the body with sex. You can do a lot of things when it comes to your sexual nature and the partner you choose when it comes to wellness and health and well-being and permeating and being like a beacon of good energy coming out of the top of your head. But people, they're not aware of that now. They're very carnal. And there's really, what I'm seeing is there's no spiritual nature to a lot of sex, especially when they show you pornographic sex that you pay for or that's free through social media. None of it is a benefit to the human body. Like, self-expression in sex is something that is very unique to each person and each individual. However, the way that sex is being manufactured is really being manufactured, and nothing that's internal is not sacred, it's not spiritual, is very manufactured. And the thought process about it in music and the music industry and through videos and through, like I said, pornographic material, it's all manufactured. There's no spiritual connection to it. So when he's saying using your sex properly, it's not about celibacy. However, a lot of people are choosing to live a celibate life because they don't see the partner that they want to be with intimately, and so they'd rather just be, celibate. So he's not saying be celibate. He's saying be very selective about your sexual energy.
The right things. The seed having the odor of fish was called Jesus, or ictos, which is Greek for fish, and nun in UN, Hebrew for of life.
Nunet.
I am the bread that came down from heaven. Give us this day our daily bread. So many of us have seen the fish being associated with Jesus. Ictos means fish in Greek. The fruit of the tree of life, therefore, is the fish, bread, of which thou shalt not eat on the plain or animal, earth dust of the earth plane. The word Adam often in Hebrew text means red earth or earth dust. But to him that overcometh will I give to eat fruit of the tree of life, because he saved it, and it returned to him in the cerebellum, and the home of the spiritual man, the ego. The cerebellum is heart-shaped, and it is called the heart in Greek. Thus, in quotes, as a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. So, another little thing, another side, the tree of life is not a physical place. It's never been a physical place. That was the invention of Rome, to pull people away from the real place of salvation, which is your own body, human form. And the tree of life is your cerebrospinal tree, your cerebrospinal system. Your brain is the root ball, and all your nerves branch out, going down your body like a tree. We're like a walking inverted tree. That is the original tree.
Okay, so knowing that, having said that, so for people that are very biblical, and they try to take scripture and they try to make it be an actual tree and not an actual body, a human body. So there's so many scriptures in the Bible that talks about a tree, cutting a tree down, rerooting a tree, grafting a tree, and all these different things, right? So if you've taken into the context of a human body, then go back and read the scripture again, because I feel like scriptures can be multifaceted. It's like a diamond. It can each facet can shoot a beam of light from each facet and a meaning from each facet, right? So in Deuteronomy, it says, Deuteronomy 20:19, it says, when you lay siege to a city for a long time, fighting against it to capture it, do not destroy it. Do not destroy its trees by putting an axe to them, because you can eat their fruit. Do not cut them down. Are the trees people that you should besiege them? So it's giving you context right there. People go right over that when they read these scriptures, and they go over I mean, it's an actual question mark. Is it a question mark they're asking? Is it a question they're asking? Or is it trying to find out where you're at mentally with that scripture? So in war, people cut down the trees all the time. They have no respect for the sacredness of each individual person, right? And I mean, I can get into a lot of stuff, but I don't want to get into the demon aspect and demon possession and all that other crap. But let's continue. So Deuteronomy 20:20 says, however, you may cut down trees that you know are not fruit trees and use them to build siege works until the city at war with you falls. So there's a lot of deepness to the scriptures, but you have to understand the context. If people are trees, are likened to being a tree, built genetically like a tree, I wanted to get into more, but I mean, you can go to 2 Kings 6:4, you can go to 2 Kings 8:5, Job 14:7, Isaiah 44:14, Jeremiah 6:6, Jeremiah 46:22, Daniel 4:14, Daniel 4:23, Zechariah 11:2. Like I can go on and on and on and on about the tree, rootstock, da 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 da. And if people are equated to trees, that can kind of give you concept of what the scriptures are talking about. But anyways, let me continue.
The organ that men in their ignorance call carrot is termed divider or pump in Greek, Hebrew. Our blood divider is not the button that we touch when we think, but it is the upper lobe of the cerebellum that vibrates thought. The lower lobe is the animal, or mortal lobe, that governs the animal world. The section of the body below solar plexus called lower Egypt, natural body, kingdom.
And to go along with what he's saying, in the scriptures, it talks about the man and the beast, and when one dies and the other dies, where do each of them go? Who is to know? Well, they're both the same. We are both the man, the beast, and the spirit. We're all those things intertwined. Let me continue.
Apollyon, the devil, lived spelled backwards. Satan. Saturn governs the balance. During the first 300 years of the Christian era, all has been above written was understood by the real Christians. And about the end of time, the persecution of the Essenes by the priesthood became so marked that they met in secret and always made the sign of the fish. About the year 325, Constantine, the pagan Roman emperor, all the teachers of Christianity together at Nicaea, the Council of Nicaea. Constantine murdered his mother and boiled his wife in oil because they still held the original doctrines of the Essenes. Constantine.
Did you hear that? He murdered his mother and boiled his wife in oil because they didn't adhere to his new theology.
By the priests of his time, that there was no forgiveness for crimes such as his, except through a long series of incarnations. But the Antichrist sought to concoct a plan by which he hoped to achieve the cosmic.
That's another thing. People think they're going straight off to heaven and that they're healed human beings. Their minds are healed, their bodies, their spirits healed, and they're going to these different universes. That is not true. You're going to reincarnate on this earth until you get your shit right. And the powers that be don't want people to get their shit right. That's why they fearmonger on mainstream media and things like that, social media and all these different platforms. And they create environments that make you ill, make your body ill, make you not be able to heal your body or even to heal your mind, to get you in par with being able to elevate or to go to other dimensions and other worlds. So you keep on reincarnating here.
And so it came to pass, after months of wrangling and fighting over the writings of the primitive Christians who clothed the wonders of the human body in oriental imagery, that the council sometimes, by a bare majority, voted and decided which of the manuscripts were, quote unquote, the Word of God and which were not. So we all know that the Council of Nicaea was where the Bible was canonized, edited, huge parts of it were taken out, and the parts were written in, which is pretty obvious to see. There was supposedly 12 disciples, but there's only 4 accounts of them in the Bible, 4 Gospels: Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. Well, where's the other 8? Well, they were all there, but they were conveniently edited out for all kinds of political reasons. The very important point in the minds of those ignorant priests, whether or not an angel had wings, was decided in favor of wings. Free majority. The minority contended that as Jacob let down the ladder for the angels to descend upon, it was a prima facie, evidence that the angels do not have wings. Okay, what he's talking about there in that paragraph is that Jacob's ladder was not a real event that some man named Jacob witnessed. Jacob's ladder was a story, an allegory that talked about the spine, the ladder that angels went up and down are the 33 vertebrae of the spine. And angels are angles of light. They're also called messengers in Hebrew. The point is that Jacob's ladder is not a story of a man named Jacob. When you read multiple spiritual traditions from all over the world from different sacred texts, you can't help but realize that they're always talking in metaphor or parable or allegory. So the Bible should be no different. And there are certain people that want to take it literally, but you're talking about something spiritual. So the only way to get at something abstract is to put it in some sort of language, some sort of story, some sort of way to reference the context of it. So spiritual texts are almost always referring to some sort of metaphor. Just think for a moment on the colossal ignorance of these priests who did not know that Jacob in Hebrew means heel catcher or circle, a ladder that referred to the influence of the signs of the zodiac on the earth. And as one sign rising every 2 hours forms a circle every 24 hours, the 4 and 20 elders of Revelation, the outer stars and the rising suns, S-U-N, rising suns, and suns, S-O-N-S. Catching on, he asks, to the last sons of the sign ascending. So, okay, there's 2 meanings. There is the ladder, which, like I said before, is the human spine, in which the prodigal son of the sacred oil priestess travels up and down to offer healing and enlightenment to the human form. And then there's also the heel catcher, the word, the name Jacob. And in very ancient zodiacs, you'll see a man drawn in the center of them, where his back is arched and his heels circle around and touch the back of his head, create a circle. And that's what the word Jacob means. That's the name. It's the man in the sky, which refers to the zodiac, which is a reflection of the time cycle of the human body. Constantine and his dupes saw that the only way to perpetuate the infamy was to keep the world in ignorance of the operation of the cosmic law. So they changed, quote unquote, times and seasons. So that's what I'm saying. The invention of the Julian calendar, the Gregorian calendar, there's other Roman calendars. They slowly changed the beginning of the year, some of the names of the months, the amount of days in a month. That's why we have leap years now. You know, for example, the word March is not the third month of the year because the spring equinox happens March 20th every year. So March is telling you it's the first month of the year. And you can go all the way around the year. Look at December. Most people think December is the last month of the year, the 12th month. But in Latin, the word dece or deca, December, deca, means 10. So a decade rounds out a 10-year period. So December or deca means 10. December is not the 12th month of the year. It's the 10th month of the year. And, you know, for October, oct means 8, like an octagon. But October in the current calendar is the 10th month of the year. The word itself will tell you October is not the 10th month of the year, it's the 8th month of the year. But as you can see, the Council of Nicaea changed things. And they've kept us in the dark ever since. And it was because they controlled all the writing. There were very few people that were literate, so the clergy. So they had a lot of power to rewrite history, to change the meanings of words, and also to change time cycles. The date that they made the sun enter Aries was March 21st. Why? March 21st should be the first day of Aries, ahead. Aries means to arise. April 19th should be the first day of Taurus, the neck. And when they're talking about the head and the neck, they're talking about that man, Jacob, the heel catcher, the body in the sky. So each month correlates to a part of the human body. So Aries is the head, Taurus is the neck, and so on and so forth. It goes all the way down the body each month. On through the 12 signs. But these deciding schemers knew that by thus suppressing the truth, people might come to realize what was meant by foods. The heavens declare the glory of God. Again, moon, and it's monthly, moon, mon, Monday, all took the same word. So every moon is a month. The moon in its monthly round of 29 and a half days enters the outer stars of a constellation 2.5 days before it enters the central suns of the constellations that are known as the signs of the zodiac or the circle of beasts. But even unto this day, the whole Antichrist world, so-called Christian, except the astrologers, go by almanacs that make the moon enter the sign of the zodiac 2.5 days before it does enter it, and thus perpetuate the lie of the pagan Constantine, the Antichrist.
Okay. Gonna stop there. And like I said, if you're a Bible reader and you are into the Bible and scriptures and stuff, if you replace, now, like I said, every scripture is multifaceted. So on in heaven, also below on the earth, you know, give us this day, this daily bread. It all correlates back to the human body. Human body is a replication of the universe. So if it talks about a tree or brandishing the tree, cutting the tree down, banding it, you know, think of a person, think of a human being, think of the time and error, and think of what they mean by cutting it down and putting bands on it to keep it from growing. What correlates to the human thought process, the human body, the human tree, and then get a better understanding of what the scriptures are trying to tell you. Anyways, that's all I have for today.